Good Thursday morning, everyone. Skylar Callan here with another episode of Between the Ears, and we are going to flip things over to the basketball side of things here today and looking at the roster construction, what it looks like right now. Obviously, last weekend they picked up another commitment out of the transfer portal in Joseph Yesufu. Talk a little bit about that and what needs to happen next, maybe. So before we get to that, make sure you hit that subscribe button on our YouTube page here at Mountaineers Now and give us a thumbs up, and go over to X and give us a follow at that exact same handle. So we're going to go ahead and throw up the roster here on the screen for West Virginia. This is as of today. And as you can see, that left-hand side of this picture, this little graphic that we've got up here, that is a pretty long list here of guards and not so much of anything else. They've got a couple of guys that can play the 2 and 3. You can kind of be a little picky about what you say in terms of what some of these guys are, but the one thing is for sure, they do not have very many options in the front court as of right now. Really only 3 guys, in my opinion, that can play either the 4 or the 5. I guess if you really had to, you could potentially throw Tucker DeVries as a 4, but that's if you're going to play small ball. And I don't know what this roster will look like in a month, but playing small ball isn't necessarily the most ideal thing. However, it can get you by for a year if needed. So you look at Eduardo Andre, good rim protector, can block shots, play defense, and kind of do all the dirty work for you. Amani Hansberry, more of an offensively driven player, and Toby Akani, more in the mold of Eduardo Andre. In my opinion, he's more concentrated on the defensive end. But outside of Andre, you really don't have a true center, and that's the big issue here. Is you just don't have any depth there. And in the Big 12, you're going to get beat up on the boards if you don't have depth at the 5. And again, it's not to say that you can't be successful in this league without, a true big man that can play both ends of the floor, or you don't have 2 centers that you feel comfortable with. There's been several years where there's been teams that have won this league and teams that have competed and finished high in the top, 3 or 4 of the league playing small ball. Kansas did it a few years back with Bill Self, and can't remember if they ended up winning the Big 12 that year or not, but they were pretty close, if not. I mean, they was almost a true, 1 in, 4 out type of situation that they had, and even sometimes they would go with basically, 5 smaller guys on the floor. So it's not impossible to deal with, but it's not ideal. Now, why do they not have anybody outside of these 3? I mean, it's plain and simple. You look at the transfer portal, there's only really probably, I don't know, 2, 3 maybe centers that I think would be worth taking a chance on. And then you look at the 4s that are in the portal, and there's probably more quality there, but you really don't want a 4, I think, at this point. I mean, you can take whatever you can get, but if they're going to add any more pieces to this, I think they want more variety in terms of guys that can play the 4 and the 5 or the 5. I don't think they need guys that can only play the 4 or 4 and the 3. They need true front court guys. And there's just not that many guys left in the portal right now. There really wasn't a whole lot of guys that transferred anyways at the center position. So you're kind of stuck with what it is. And the one thing I'll say about Darian DeVries is I actually like this strategy that he's putting together here with this roster, because you can't just attack a certain position because you have to have, 2 centers checked off your to-do list. You have to have 2 power forwards or 3 power forwards checked off. You have to have 1 that's kind of a swing and plays both the 4 and the 5. You don't have to do that. You're going to force something and end up screwing you in the long run when you do stuff like that. Just like in football. You hear Neil Brown talk about it all the time and like, yes, we'd like to do this, this, and this, but we're not going to sacrifice, the culture or maybe a scholarship later down the road just to bring in a guy that, we're just bringing in for to say that we have him or to say we have another body at that spot. And that's kind of the same thing here with Darian DeVries. And I don't think they're just going to force anything just to say they've got X amount of guys at the 5 spot or X amount of guys in the front court, period. So I don't think it's really a situation where you need to panic. I think they will probably pick up one more center. And heck, by the end of all this, they may be completely fine and have 2 more centers or a center and another 4, and all of a sudden we're this conversation is pointless. But as of right now, I think this roster can win with the way it's constructed. It's a young roster, but it's one that has talent. You got Tucker DeVries. You've got Sincere Harris, who, even though hasn't played a ton in college, has some college experience. Same with Monty Hansberry. The 2 other guys that you have in the front court, Eduardo Andre and Toby Akani, they've played for a while. Now the rest of the roster, very, very young. But the talent is there. The talent is there for this team to, I'd say, hover a couple of games over 500. I'm not quite there yet to say that they're a tournament team. They need more help to become a tournament team in year 1. But we'll see if they add any other big men. I think this is going to be a year where DeVries and his staff is going to have to rely on the small ball. They're going to have to rely on Tucker DeVries to win them games. And they need to figure out who that second scoring option is going to be when Tucker gets blitzed and they're making the ball move and he's not able to get open clear shots. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on this thing as the summer unfolds. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on our YouTube page at Mountaineers Now. Give us a thumbs up and a like and a follow at the same handle on X. We'll be back here tomorrow morning to wrap things up here on this week's edition of Between the Ears. Take care.